Hi, beautiful people. Thank you very much for joining us on the Conscious Togetherness Summit. It starts up today, very nice, and it's very good to see all those people coming to us. Today, I am going to talk to a very prominent colleague of mine, Dr. Beverley Lawrence, PhD, LAC, holistic healer, uh, acupuncturist, metaphysical writer. And if I just left something out, please, Beverly, tell us all.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Zaza. I'm happy to be here.
Very nice to see you here. So, what are all those letters and sort of titles behind your name?
Yeah, well, the LAC, that's easy. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, so that's where the L is licensed, AC is acupuncture. So I'm
Oh,
licensed in the state of Arizona to practice medicine as an acupuncturist. The PhD, I have 8 degrees. And I was really interested in, okay, I'm gonna put the dog down, sorry.
that's
Was
okay.
really interested in combining light and sound and acupuncture together. So I wanted to get a PhD in vibration and vibrational energy. And so to do that, I had to go back and get another bachelor's and another master's. So the PhD is in science, and because I do sound healing and I do color puncture, which is uses colored lights, and mostly I do a process called OGT, which is on the forehead, and it's labor intensive. So you have the needles, and then you have the tuning forks, and then you have the OGT, and you have all this stuff. And I wanted to find out, well, can I find a way to put all that together? And so my dissertation for the PhD was, what is frequency healing? What are the frequencies? What are the frequencies in the body? How does that work? And how do I combine light and sound? And in the process, I found out that if you know what a piano keyboard looks like, you've got middle C, and so you've got different notes in the piano. And so that's the sound. Well, you can associate the sound with a tuning fork, right? Well, how do you associate the light? Well, if you have a keyboard that has 80 octaves up, light is way up at that keyboard. You know, you'd have to have a keyboard the size of your house. um, that's where light is. So that's why it has a different measurement instead of hertz like sound. It has its own measurement system because it just would be such a big number. So they use a different measurement system. So I found a formula from Jonathan. What's his last name? I forgot his last name. Anyway, I used about 10 of his books in my dissertation, and he had a formula for converting light to sound. And so I used that formula, and then I figured out here's a protocol you can use on a particular point for healing a particular issue, and you use these sounds and lights on that point. And that's what my dissertation was about. Um,
Absolutely wonderful.
and
It's
that's when I discovered solfeggio, and those frequencies are very, very powerful healing. And that's what my free gift is for people is what solfeggio is and how they can do it at home to self heal.
excellent. Excellent. Um, how did you get here? I mean, now we know Beverly, Dr. Beverly, who she is right now. Well, I mean, we know the surface, obviously. How did you arrive here?
Well, it, it started out with a very difficult, challenging childhood. And at, at a very young age, I decided, why don't people read the Bible? I mean, I was raised Southern Baptist. We're always going to church, and you look at all these passages in the Bible, but everything's out of context. But it's a book. And I says, I'm a young teenager. I'm just starting high school, and I go, why don't you read it like a book? Well, I read it like a book, and I went, this is horse crap. And I became an atheist, refused to go to church anymore. And so when you do that, for me anyway, you end up with a life with no purpose, no meaning, no direction. I got married. I was very unhappily married. It was a miserable marriage for 20 years. I finally got out of it and I started getting really, really sick. I mean, I got really sick. I had more things wrong with me than I know. I used to have a whole sheet of paper that I would go to the doctor with all the things that were wrong. Autoimmune conditions, cancer, everything. I mean, I couldn't eat anything. I had chronic indigestion. I lived on Maalox. I had chronic headaches. I was constantly taking like Excedrin and stuff. But I really believed in Western medicine. And I kept going into anaphylactic shock. I ended up, in the end, having 5 near-death experiences. And one day I'm in the emergency room, and the doctor there said, I'm really getting sick and tired of seeing you here. I was rescued off Mission Peak by helicopter, off Angel Island by ranger boat, because I like to hike and I was very active. And I said, well, what do I do? He said, go see an allergist. I went, okay, well, I had money back then. And I said, who's the best allergist in the Bay Area? And there's, we got Stanford Medical School there. There's a lot of really good doctors. So I researched it. I found the very best allergist. I sat down with her. I spent an hour with her telling me what's going wrong. She looked me in the eye and said, I can't help you. And I went, what? What? It's like, what? And that's when I realized Western medicine was going to kill me if I kept it up.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what to do. So I went to this one doctor that I'd known for years, and I had a lot of respect for. He was a gynecologist, but I really didn't need a gynecologist by then. But I went to him anyway to see what he would say, and he said, you need to meditate. It's like, to a to an atheist, tell an atheist to meditate. Well, that's woo-woo crap. What have I got to lose, So I asked around at work, who knows anything about meditation, found a guy, borrowed a book, read it. He says, if you go over here, they'll teach you to meditate. So I went over there and I started to meditate. And they said, in 2 weeks, you'll be here. In 2 months, you'll be here. In 2 years, you'll be here. And in 10 years, if you're really lucky, you'll be there. In 2 weeks, I'm at 2 months. At 2 months, I'm at 2 years. And by the 3rd month, I have literally a divine experience. And I went, oops, there really is a divine. It's not what I thought it was, but it exists. And that started me off on, I literally woke up. I suddenly knew who I was, where I was from, why I incarnated on Earth, what I'm supposed to do, and that I was behind. I needed to catch up spiritually. I didn't, you can't advance spiritually if you don't know stuff. You really have to learn.
Of course.
And the more you learn, then all of a sudden, the more you grow spiritually. It's hand in hand. And, but I was very blessed in that I had my own business. I made a lot of money and I had a lot of time off. And so I did like a 3-year residential shamanic training program. I studied with a number of 2 living Buddhas, a Taoist master, a number of other masters. I did extended retreats in Nepal and Glastonbury. I was up to Mount Shasta at least once a month. I've been in 4 mystery schools. I'm still in the 4th one. I don't even remember everything I did, but I was just really hammering, cramming into my head everything that I should have been learning over the last 30, 40 years. And then at some point I went, I just caught up. So I knew that I was now caught up. Now I had to, you have to work on yourself. So
Yes.
now I had to work on why I was here to fix me. And as I did that, I started to change. I no longer had cancer. I no longer, I spontaneously, the angels came in and healed my cancer. And I just started healing, and people started coming to me and saying, will you help me? Well, sure. So I was just helping them out of my house, Then
Yeah.
friends of friends started coming, and then friends of friends of friends came. And then strangers started calling me. We'd go back like 6 people, and I didn't know any of them. So I was making a name for myself as a healer, and I was just working for free out of my house. She says, "What do you charge?" I said, "Well, I don't charge." She says, "Well, you have to," and she gave me money. So I opened an office. So now I have two businesses. I have my computer tech business, and then I have my healing business that I did in the evenings and weekends. And I did that for a number of years, and then I realized that through my ignorance, because I'd never been to medical school, I was in the computer industry, I could hurt somebody that should have been
Yes.
referred rather than me working on them. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to medical school. So I was renting an office from a chiropractor, and she was a Russian chiropractor. She was an MD from Russia who became a chiropractor in the US. And she did cupping and homeopathy. And I thought, I'm going to learn homeopathy. She taught me how to do cupping. So I thought, well, I'll go to Southwest College Naturopathic Medicine because they teach homeopathy. Because all the mail order stuff I found was terrible. And so I went there. I had to do a couple years of pre-med because I didn't have medical background.
Yeah.
And I got in school and I didn't like their acupuncture program.
Uh-huh.
And they had a sister school that taught acupuncture, but they teach the full acupuncture curriculum. So I dropped out of their acupuncture program and I went and I took the acupuncture from an acupuncture school. Fell in love with it and decided I don't need to be a naturopath. I just want to be an acupuncturist. And so that's where I focused on acupuncture. And I've had a practice, and it was in Chandler for over 10 years. And then because of COVID, I had to shut it down. So now I'm creating this online business, and I've been teaching metaphysics and spirituality and meditation for decades. I have all the classes, so I just converted them to being online. And I'm starting this online academy to teach people that way. So that's kind of my journey.
Oh, it's extraordinary. I like your open-mindedness on this journey and the understanding that everything comes back to learning, actually, because most people, especially in this business, they call themselves spiritual and healers, and they have no idea what is going on and how can they actually hurt somebody if they don't understand what is going on. I don't have any medical background, but I know enough of the body and all the functions to understand what is going on. And at this point, I can actually diagnose people. Just look at you, look at your aura, and I would tell you what's wrong with you. Of course, we cannot because it is not um, uh, permitted by law to actually do that, but I do much better job than most medical practitioners actually.
Well,
Yeah,
medical practitioners' goal is not to make you healthy. Their goal is
yes,
to
of
make
course.
money. They don't want you healthy. But sometimes you need that medicine. Sometimes you have to have an like when I broke my ankle, I needed
Yes,
my
yes, yes,
medicine.
yes.
So you just have to know the limitations and when to do spiritual healing and when not to.
Yeah, that is absolutely true because sometimes you really need the medication um, just to give you a kick out of the place where you are um, uh, physically, and that's true. But yeah, I mean, healers, there are very good healers on earth, really. There are few people can really do so-called miracles, but obviously miracle doesn't exist because I say miracle is something you don't understand. But when you understand it, it's not a miracle anymore. So, you know, it is
Well, it's all
miracle.
about vibration. And if you know what the vibration is that you
Yeah,
need for that condition, then you can heal it.
yeah,
It's just we don't learn that in school. You have to go and find it. You have to dig it out. You have to research it. I mean, I can't tell you. I probably read 100 books for my dissertation. Um, I found out there's so many different vibrations in the body. We like to think, oh, there's Reiki. There's only one energy system. No, that's one vibration. There are many in the body. I found a book by a chiropractor where she had identified the vibration of every single vertebrae in the back, and each one is different. So if you want to, a lot of people have L4, L5 issues. Well, that has a very specific vibration right there. So if you want to heal that area, you need to know the frequency for that area. Well, if you've never studied that, you don't know that. So
Yeah.
how do you know how to heal it?
Yeah.
It's hit or miss,
Yeah.
With acupuncture, at least they've got thousands of years of practice, and they know, well, if you put a needle here and you put a needle there, somehow magically it works over here. you know?
Yeah.
We're still trying to understand why that works. A lot of it has to do because of the way it routes the energy through your channels,
Yeah.
but it's still not fully understood. But somehow they knew about the vibration. They knew about the
Yeah.
vibration of herbs, of food. Food is medicine.
Yeah.
So, what you eat creates created a lot of my problems is the way I was eating. I had to completely change my diet, and the water I was drinking. Um, so what you think, how you live, what you
Yeah.
eat, what you do, all of that affects your health, and people just don't understand that.
Yes, it is very hard for people to understand that. What I do usually is to look at the color. For me, the color gives me the vibration, gives me the taste, gives me the sound, gives me everything. And through the color, I can um, figure out what happens at the particular uh, uh, end of the part of the body. And then, of course, I learn, I work with it. But of course, if you are sort of educated in one of the uh, aspects of this energy, what we are talking about, then obviously you are going to uh, stick to it, and you would use that as a main identification for everything around.
Well,
Yes,
color is a frequency.
yes,
Color is a vibration. So you're just seeing it. So you don't need a tool to help you. But there's tools now being developed to help people, so you don't have to be able to see them. But I believe with the energies coming in right now, we're going through some major astrology changes right now.
oh
The
yes,
20, 22nd of this month is going to be another major shift. August 8th was, oh my God, I got whacked on the 8th.
yes,
The 22nd is going to be another big day. So their third eye is going to start opening, their crown chakras are going to start opening, and they're going to start knowing things. And I think that they're going to really need spiritual guides, in the body to help them understand what's going on and how do you work with this and develop it. Because right now you can develop spiritually at Mach speed because of the energies and what's going on.
yes, that's true. However, on the other hand, of course, people who are not strong enough to understand and take on these energies, they would withdraw even further into their life. I mean, it's really interesting. These changes, what we experience from the universe, they help a lot of people, and of course, sort of push back a lot of people into their comfort zone because they are afraid of it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to take the step. It's like with every learning, when at the beginning, every learning is very interesting because it's new. And we get to a point in everything when we say, yeah, 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 okay, but I am not uh, succeeding with the level I want to succeed or with the speed and whatever. And it is really laborious, so I am going to give it up. And it is the same stuff. You have to really step over this bridge and get on the other side of the road to actually see the light over there. And yeah, yes, and you are right, a lot of guidance is needed, because otherwise, without guidance, that can be just a suicide mission as such.
And
So
some of the initiations you go through along the way, I know for me, I was blessed that I studied with a couple of living Buddhas and a Taoist master, and I knew a lot of masters and monks and nuns. And sometimes I would just call one of them and say, "Help! This is happening. What is this?" And they would explain it to me. So if you don't have that when you're going through it, you're right. You're going to get scared. You're going to run away and say, "I don't want this." When my third eye first turned on, it freaked me out. I went, "Okay, turn it off." When I started remembering my past lives, I went, "Oh my God, I made the same mistake in every life. Turn it off." And so for about 5 years, I didn't even want to remember anything anymore. And then I started remembering them again, and then it was okay because I'd learned more and I was ready for it. But
Yes.
you're right, if you're not ready and it happens, you need help, you need guidance. And I was blessed that I was able to get that guidance. So now I want to help as
Yeah.
many people as I can as they go through their changes.
Well, yes, I mean, most people don't even look for guidance. They don't even know if they
Yeah.
are in need for guidance, obviously. Yes, it's very interesting and very exciting how we live nowadays. And of course, um, some people call it the sixth sun. I call it the golden era, but then again,
The
you
sixth
know,
sense.
yeah, you know the film. There is a film out called The Sixth Sun
Oh,
because we had the five sun ages, yeah, and
oh, okay.
already, and it is the sixth sun,
Oh,
and
okay.
they say, but I call it actually the golden era when anything can happen.
Yeah, the golden era I'm familiar with.
Yeah, anything can happen Thursday, you know.
Every morning when I wake up, oh, good, there's a sun up and I'm still here.
Yes, yes, yes.
I
So
don't
anything can
know what's
happen.
going to happen overnight. I may not wake up the next day. The sun may not come up tomorrow. You
Sure,
don't know.
sure,
There's
sure.
that song that the what is it? Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. You know, the sun will come up
Yeah, yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's taking the sun for granted. You don't know if it's going to come up.
Yes, yes, yes.
Today's age, you know, we don't know what's going to happen because massive changes could happen suddenly.
Definitely, definitely, especially nowadays and anytime. And actually, it's very important to see. I always say that uh, people with life elixir would understand. Of course, you have to develop your life elixir. What do you think of it?
Your life elixir?
Well, you can call it anything. I mean, the zest for living and to,
Well, I think it's important to know what your purpose is. And your purpose is not necessarily your job. And it's not, I've had people say, oh, my goal is to, my purpose is to be nice. No, that's a state of being. That's not a purpose. We should all try to be nice, but that's an attitude, a state of being. Your purpose is you came in here on purpose for a certain goal. Your soul made certain agreements. You picked your parents. A lot of people hate it when I say that. I would never have picked my parents. Well, guess what? If you find out why, sorry, if I don't hold him, he'll bark.
yeah,
uh,
somebody.
it, your parents taught you a lesson. It may have been a hard lesson, but for whatever reason, your soul needed it. And that's why you picked them. And as difficult as my childhood was, I now completely understand why my dad did the things he did, why my mother acted the way she did. And I've actually, they're gone now, but I can spiritually thank them for the gift they gave me because it was a powerful lesson that I would not have gotten if I didn't have that kind of parent growing up. So it was a great gift. So that's true for everybody. There's a reason why you're with your parents, and for many people, the reason they're in certain relationships, like my ex-husband, was old karma. And I was able to finally wake up and say, oh my God, I remember my past life with him. I remember my past life with my daughter. Aha. And I've been able to clear that karma. So now I never have to repeat that
Yes,
again with those people. And so to me, it's really important to start remembering your past lives. You start noticing, oh my God, the patterns. Oh, I do this and I do this and I do. And you may not even notice those until you see it through different lifetimes. It's a shame we don't live longer because by the time you figure stuff out, you know, you're old enough to pass on. And then if you haven't learned all your lessons, then you get to relive them over and over until you finally learn. So to me, getting into that, why did you have these parents? Why do you have those siblings? Why do you have those children? Why do you have those friends? And make sure that your relationships are clear, clean, you're not creating more karma, and that and karma ripples back. So when you meet someone you had old karma with and you clear it, it ripples back through time. Time is fluid. It's not, this life and this time is not really here. This is a dream. And
Yeah.
when you clear it, it ripples back in time and changes everything. So to me, that's really important to do before we pass on, is to clear all that old stuff so you don't have to go through it again.
Oh, it's very interesting what you are saying, because I have a theory. Well, I can prove it to myself through my experiences, obviously, because I don't just have theories in my life, that we don't have reincarnation any longer, and mostly because karma is very heavy for Earth, and people coming down to, I mean, souls coming down to Earth, they have never lived on Earth before. It has happened in the recent years, and
You talk about the star seeds?
I don't like those names. I am not talking about starseeds. I am talking about an event in 1972 when a star gateway closed where the souls used to come down through that stargate. Anyway, I don't want to really get into that. I just tell you what I think about it, and so we don't get back. Yeah, according to my theory, we don't get back to the same stuff any longer in life. However, I have another one, that when you arrive to the point that you understand everything
Like,
possible, then actually there is nothing to live for anymore. What do you
well,
think?
there is if you want to help humanity. I believe what's happening, and I know a lot of other people are feeling this as well. Do you know what a threaded universe is? Do you understand that? It's a astrophysics theory. Um, where, let's say, you could have made a decision to turn right or left, and maybe you turned right, and then later you regret it and you
Oh,
went,
yes.
I should have turned left, and so another thread is created where you turn left. So you have all these different threads, and what's happening now is all these threads are converging. So it could be in your universe, because we each have our own universe. In your universe, that gate closed. In my universe, it didn't, because in 1995, my mother died and she was reborn again. I know who she is. She's my great great niece. So in my universe, that didn't happen. But now these threads are converging and our universes are coming together. That's why some people, what is it called, the Magellan effect or something? Well, people, I've had people say, "Did you notice that the Ford logo changed?" Or they say, "Do you remember that things were this color and now they're that color?" And that's what's happening, because in their thread it was different. And now as we converge, it's like, what's going on? That's the wrong color, or that's the wrong logo, or that's the wrong whatever, because these threads are now coming together. And so,
Mhm.
what is the truth? I don't think there is the truth.
No, no,
There's
no,
whatever
definitely.
exists in your universe, you know. And every
Mhm.
soul has its path, and now our paths are converging because we're actually all one. And so that we just at some point are going to merge. But I think that our we're going to leave when our purpose is done, or we give up. Now, my mother gave up. She didn't have to leave when she did. She took an early out. Um, and you have different in my world. You have different exit points that you can leave, and
Yeah,
she took one of them.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Because she should have gotten divorced, in my opinion, and she didn't want to, so she left. I got divorced. Probably if I hadn't gotten divorced, I would have died too, because there was no way to fulfill my purpose in that kind of environment that I was in. So you either continue on your path and fulfill your purpose, and when you do, then it's time to go because you're done. Your soul came here to, you learned what you needed to learn, you accomplished what you needed to accomplish, you cleared what you needed to clear, blah blah blah. Now you can leave, and until then, you're gonna hang out and get your butt kicked until you wake up and start doing what you're supposed to do. I know because I've got my butt kicked more than once because I
Oh,
was
yeah.
going the wrong way.
If you haven't had your butt kicked, then you haven't lived really. So you have
True.
to have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that I think that in my reality, I think that's what's going on, and a number of people I've talked to feel that same thing. They're feeling this convergence of these different threads, and at some point, it's going to all come together. And I suspect a whole lot of us are going to go at the same time,
Yeah,
and that's what they call the ascension.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so some of us are going to go, and some of us that don't want to change and they're stuck in their paradigm. I think it depends on how they live their life. If
Yeah,
you lived a life as a good person, but you just couldn't handle waking up, I've heard the Pleiadians say that there's a lot of people like that, and they're going to take those souls with them and rehabilitate them. Because we have all this trauma from eons of war, and that has affected our soul and our
yes.
DNA. All of that trauma from all of the wars and the fighting and the killing and the, you know, you can't handle TV and movies anymore. They're so horrible. And that energy has impacted us in a very bad
Yes,
way, which is why some people can't wake up. So I think that's what you were saying about Earth has become stuck spiritually and needs
yes,
an intervention. And I think
yes.
that's why there's a lot of higher level souls coming in right now. There's young people there's one kid I saw, he was like 3 years old and he was a master pianist. It's like, oh my God. Obviously they're bringing these gifts in with them. you know. So there's very, very gifted beings incarnating right now who hopefully that's the future of humanity are going to clean things up.
Yeah,
Um,
well, if they don't get frightened, because you see, the point is, it is for souls who never lived on Earth, it is quite frightening to come down here because of the physical body. The physical body is, in one way or another, is a prison. So souls cannot move freely as they've done before, and it is something to get used to. And all uh, the laws and regulations of living here on Earth is um, very difficult for some, and some of them actually like the challenge. So that's the better one. What
yeah, I
you
like
talked
the
about the
challenge.
threads, I call them dimensions, but I have them, yes, in my teachings. So I say everything starts up a dimension, and those dimensions, you are in every dimension actually, and um, you are always in. You think that what you feel, you think it is your valid or through dimension all the time, but it can be in another one. So reality is very interesting as such.
I like to use the word density because science has a dimension and it has a totally different meaning. And dimension gets used by different people with different meanings. So I go
Yes,
density
that's true.
because I'm really talking about the vibration.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes,
And and we live in multiple dimensions and multiple realities at the same
yes,
time. And sometimes, I'll meet someone and I'll go, oh my God, that's me. I look at them and I see my face. And, it's like, oh, that's me. Oh, okay. Because we're here in more than one way. and, and as well, we were in different threads, but the threads are coming together. So now you're starting to meet yourself that took a
yes,
different decision and another thread. So it's kind of weird. Now, something that I noticed a long time ago and I never said anything about it because it kind of freaked me out. And lately I've been hearing a lot of people talk about it, and I heard you talk about it, and that's that some people have no soul. And I've always thought everybody had a soul, but my granddaughter was born in Hong Kong, and everything is high rises, and I'm up looking down, and I'm going, that person doesn't have a soul. Oh my God, because you can see their energy, and you know what's there, and it wasn't there, and it kind of freaked me out. And now I'm hearing more and more people say that a lot of the people that here aren't really here. What do you think of that?
It's it actually is the continuation of my theory of uh, only new souls coming down to earth. And it started up at the time when we started to talk about indigo children,
Mm-hmm.
because people's aura who have no karma, their aura is sort of indigoish coloring. I mean, you can see one's karma through the aura, and you can see everything there
Mm-hmm.
actually. And uh, the the souls coming down to earth, they come down here voluntarily, and somehow um, in recent years we produce far more children than souls wanting to come down here. You
Ah,
understand? And it
ah,
is not a duty of a soul or the souls to feel every physical body here. And because of that, we started to produce all kinds of children because we are so um, egoistic people, egoistic beings. We think we created the universe and we are going to rule
yeah.
everything.
We're the center of the
Yes, and of course it's very far from it. So the idea is there are physical bodies without soul, because I would say that the a human being is an amalgamation of soul and physical body. It's not a separate, two separate entities when it becomes a human being. It is an amalgamation. And who doesn't have soul because nobody wanted to come down. Now, very few souls wants to come down, actually. I call them robots. Pretty unfortunate the name is, but uh, you see, these beings can be coded. People with soul can be coded, but very different. They're very difficult to code people with soul. I mean, when they have it. Um, but earthlings without souls can be coded to do certain things or to do that
oh, you
and
mean
that.
programmed? Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
and they're mind controlled. Yeah,
yes, yes, and
they're
the
totally
movements and
I can
everything
see it.
controlled. And that's what we see here. A lot of them are sort of, I call it coded for a reason, but I don't want to get into the reason because it's
Yeah,
too long.
I call it mind controlled. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And sort of that's the idea. At one point, I mean, about 5 years back, with my students, we used to code a lot of uh, robots, because if we don't code, well, it is not, I don't want to say that everybody can code everybody, but you have to get to that level of understanding and everything. And of course, you have to have the permission from the universe and everything. I mean, you cannot just do what you want. We started because we realized that if we don't code, somebody else will. It might
Mm.
be outside forces. And then it might be a bit worse for the community or earth or whatever than it is at the moment. So very interesting things. And you can see that they behave differently, they talk differently, they act differently, and a lot of robots are in the prominent positions actually. A lot of them are
Oh yeah, yeah.
politicians and in the money business,
What's
financial
the name of the guy
industry.
that owns Facebook? I swear he's a robot. He is not. He's not. His early years, he was human, but he's not there anymore. He's something else now.
Oh
Was
yeah, I
it
mean,
Zuckerberg? I think his name is something like that. Every time I see a picture of him, I go, he's not human.
yeah, yeah,
What
it
happened
happened.
to him? Yeah, I know
Yeah,
what you mean.
So that's what happens. And people, of course, don't want to talk about it because they haven't arrived to this chapter of their studies. In their studies, you know?
It can be freaky when I know it freaked me out when I first realized, wait a minute, they don't have a soul. And I didn't even want to talk about it with anybody. And then I heard someone
Yeah.
else talk about it. And oh, I'm not the only one that experienced it. Because if you have no one to talk to about things, it can be, some of this stuff can be really freaky because you have certain paradigms about how the world should be because that's how you were raised. And in order to advance spiritually, you have to let go of some of those paradigms. And then you're no longer on safe ground, so to speak, you know.
Yeah.
This is computer, this really exists. That rock is hard. And then you go to Nepal and you look at all the handprints in the rocks because
Yeah.
some guru said, "Oh, that rock isn't solid," and put their handprint in it. Um, so at some point, you realize none of this is real, none of it exists, and you can manipulate it. I'm not there yet, but there are beings who have walked this earth who are or have been
Yeah.
in the past,
Yes, that's
and
true.
that's our goal to get to that point, and then you can just walk away. You don't really die. You walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. Well, I was quite fortunate because I raised myself. Nobody raised me.
Ah,
Well, you know, family stuff and everything. So actually, I never had a safe ground, or I always had a safe ground because that's only the way of looking at it. You either think that every ground you are on at the particular moment is a safe ground. It's up to you really how you look at it. So I look at every ground as a safe ground, and I haven't read books. Um, all what I know, I channeled.
mm-hmm.
So, and everything is sort of has to be logical, a metaphysical understanding, obviously, because that's what I uh, relate to. And what is not logical for me, I either put it aside or start digging to
Yeah,
see the connection between two things, you know.
yeah.
And
That's what
well,
I do.
that's what it is.
Yeah. When I was young, I made some bad decisions and ended up homeless. And that's when I discovered you have to create your own safe home, your own safe ground. It isn't a gift. You have to create it. And I learned that early on, the hard way. But I think that when you do read, you have to use discernment because everything you read isn't true. So you have to be
Yeah,
able to. There's certain books like the Bailey books. Half of it is full of gems, and half of it isn't real. So you have to read with real
yeah,
discernment.
yeah,
Um, and then when you channel, you have to make who are you channeling, and based on your understanding, did you understand it right, or did you misunderstand?
yeah,
I know when I first got on the spiritual path, I ask a lot of questions. Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? And sometimes I wouldn't get an answer. And one day I said, "Why don't you answer me? I have these questions." And the answer I got back was, "We could tell you, but you wouldn't understand it."
yes,
Aha,
yeah,
I got to keep studying. And then
yes,
10 years later, I'd go, "Oh, now I get it. I would not have understood the answer back then. I do now."
yes, that's
So
it.
when I don't understand something, I just, like you said, dig in,
Yeah, yeah,
meditate,
yeah,
read, talk to people, take another class, whatever, until finally, oh, now I understand.
yeah. Well, I
I,
don't mean I have never read all the
I know
classics
what you
and
mean.
everything. I mean, I have a library of God
Yeah.
knows what, but I don't read um, so-called uh, esoteric or spiritual books as such, because I don't have the time, first of all.
Mhm.
And secondly, I am creating everything by myself. And that's
I
it.
like to read ancient work.
Yes, ancient works.
You
Yeah, that's
know,
different.
the Emerald Tablets, the Hermes stuff,
Yes, yes,
Epic of Gilgamesh. Boy, was that an eye opener. The Numa Elish, the Vedas, the Upanishads. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, um, going back to those books, even parts of the Bible, if you learn to take it figuratively, what's the esoteric underlying meaning they're not telling you? Studying the Kabbalah has helped also, because a lot of the Old Testament is based on Kabbalah, which is also based on the Sumerian tablets. You read the Sumerian tablets, all of a sudden you
Oh
understand
yes. Oh
a
yeah.
lot of, you understand all the
Yeah.
Greek gods and the Roman gods and all that other stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that I spend a lot of time reading. Or I read the work of researchers who have done a lot of reading and studying and compiling of that kind of work. Because I don't have time to read all of it and study it, and because you can get a PhD in Vedic literature, you know.
Yeah.
So I study people who studied it and synthesized it, and saved me a little bit of time. But I like to pull all of that together and bring it together. And going to the mystery schools has helped me understand a lot of it. The one I'm in now pulls together all those different types of teachings from different religions and everything. The first school I was in was more energy healing and meditation. I learned more energy systems and more types of meditation than I can even remember, just hundreds of them.
Yes.
And but every time you did a new one, it developed you a little bit differently. It opened different channels. It
Yes.
opened different awarenesses. The second one was an Egyptian mystery school, and I think it was like the second or third class. There was a statue of Isis. Well, I talk to statues. I talk to everything. So I'm walking by the table and Isis stopped me. She says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "You don't need to be here." I said, "Well, I want to really understand Egyptian mystery." She says, "All you have to do is remember your past lives and you'll remember all about Egyptian mystery." And I said, "Okay," and I quit. I actually didn't stay in that one very long. And I started meditating and I remembered these lives in Egypt, and sure
Yeah.
enough, I
You see.
didn't have to study that. Um, the third one was more physics and science oriented. What's the structure of the universe, that sort of thing. And the one I'm in now is more about the ancient teachings and correlating it all together. And, what's gematria and numerology. I love all that stuff. It's really interesting. And that's how you find the hidden messages and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of my journey of how I've tried to understand things.
Yes, it is very exciting because my journey is very similar to yours, of course. I am hooked on the ancient, the Gnostic stuff,
Oh, yeah,
obviously,
Gnostic.
because
Oh, yeah.
that's that doesn't have the gap filling um, fantasies and everything, the sort of coat or
Yeah.
layers human beings put
Mm-hmm.
on them. So it's very interesting. Yes, I have a Phoenix initiation from the Egyptian knowledge. So
Oh,
um,
okay.
I do quite a lot with that. Beverly, I love talking to you. I would
Okay.
love talking to you forever because you are exciting, you are knowledgeable, you are good to talk to, and it's a pleasure to have you around. But unfortunately, I have to pack it up because I won't be able to put the video anywhere because it will be too long.
I understand.
Technicalities. But I really, really do love you, and I give you a big hug
Oh,
or an elbow rub, whatever you want.
the heart.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for talking to me. And have a wonderful sleep. I think you are going to have.
Yeah, it's late here.
And see you soon. Take good
Okay.
care of yourself. Thank you very much.
Okay, Zaza. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessings.